The reason that I do this is that I view designing the game as a constant process, not as something that we do yesterday or last week or whenever we planned it and then we're done. We should be constantly revising to try to accomplish whatever experience, if this is supposed to be a relatively easy sort of learning fight, or if this is going to be like a knockdown, drag out, the whole party might die type of fight. I find that I probably adjust the attacks a lot less than I do the hit points of the monster. And I probably should be adjusting these things more often. It's just not something that I'm as keyed into. If I'm like, oh, I am crushing them in this fight that like maybe wasn't supposed to be this crushing, that's not gonna probably be as much fun. Hey Josh, the mobile chat, what advice would you have for someone running their first one shot as to power level? PCs are level 6. Power level. So my general recommendation for power level is that don't put yourself in a bind, I guess, or don't put yourself in a situation where you feel stuck delivering like something too weak or too hard. What I like to do, and I'm sort of formatting these stat blocks um, for other people to use right now. But if I switch over to how I typically do stat blocks, this is what I recommend. And I should preface this by saying the reason that and I'll zoom in a little bit, mobile. The reason that I do this is that I view designing the game as a constant process, not as something that we do yesterday or last week or whenever we planned it and then we're done. We should be constantly revising to try to accomplish whatever experience, if this is supposed to be a relatively easy sort of learning fight, or if this is going to be like a knockdown, drag out, the whole party might die type of fight. All we can do is guess beforehand, but during the fight, we have all the information, we can adjust accordingly. So what I like to do, a typical hit point score for a monster might look like, it's what do I have here? It's 46 on average, and that's going to be a roll of 40, 12 plus 20, right? And mathematically, what that's doing, and I don't even know if my math is correct here, but mathematically, what that's doing is saying, okay, the 46 average that it shows in the first parentheses is based on 4 times, in this case, 6.5 plus 20. So I think if you did that, so it'd be like 20, so 30. Yeah, I'm a little bit off, I think, in my original, what I had written here. So it's giving you sort of the average number, but the way I prefer to think about that is what's the minimum hit points the monster has and what's the maximum hit points the monster has. So the minimum in this case of 40, 12 plus 20 is, or that is, well, we could roll a 1 on those d12s. It gives a 4 plus the 20 is 24. So that'd be the minimum HP that this monster has. Well, what's the maximum? The same question. Let's see. Okay. If we rolled the maximum on those d12s times 4, that'd be 48. Plus the 20 is 68. So there's a reason that all of that is just explaining why in the line in my notes, I usually have the HP written out, and then I give myself the range. And actually, what I normally do is just, I'll keep the dice information, but what I'm interested in is this number. And then what I'm going to do to balance that fight out is, after the first round or so of combat, I'm looking to, okay, like how hard did they hit? How hard did my monster hit? How's the fight going one round in? And if the players at level 6 in that first round, maybe into the second round, depending on how long I want to, I'm constantly reevaluating, maybe everybody hits it really hard. They're all like, yeah, that was a lot. And their total damage output was like 12. Meanwhile, the monster's doing pretty solid damage against them. I might go, okay, I might lean towards, for this fight, this might be a monster that has 24 hit points. Or maybe I pick somewhere in the middle. Maybe it's got 30, 36, something like that. The low end. But if the players come in and they're just smashing it and it's basically even blows back and forth, then maybe I'm like, all right, you know what? This is a tougher boss. I want this to be a tougher boss than it, than it would be if it had the lesser HP. I'm going to give it 68. Now, I don't change this number willy-nilly all the time. I'm going to basically, as soon as I can verify kind of the nature of the fight in those first couple of rounds, I'm basically going to pick that number. I'm going to find that kind of equilibrium, that balance point. That way I can say, and sometimes I'm marking it when I say like, okay, you guys have bloodied it. It's at half HP. That's when I sort of mark it and make it real. You're making your boss and it's a combo of HP, but also how many adds to think about. So yeah, and in terms of damage output, it's a combination of how easy is it to hit, and then how much damage you kind of want it dealing in a round. That's kind of to taste. I mean, you can sort of do some math in your head a little bit where you can like look at, okay, what's the total hit point pool of your group, and you can tally that up just looking at their character sheets and say, okay, let's say they have 120 hit points amongst the group of them. I don't know if that's the right number, but let's just say it is. And then let's just use the monster that I have right here. It has a standard punch. And that punch is a +8 to hit. It's probably going to hit. Most of the time, it's probably going to hit the party. Well, what happens if it hits? It hits with a 4d6 + 3, or an average of 17. So I would look at that and say, okay, if it hits more than, say, half the time and it's dealing out 17 hit points, it's got 2 attacks on its turn, then, how much damage is that going to dole out each round, and does that feel right or does that feel light? It's going to depend on the group. Because, depending on how the fight goes, it might be dished out evenly or it might all go to 1. And so you can just kind of run this in your head a little bit and go like, does that feel like enough? I find that I probably adjust the attacks a lot less than I do the hit points of the monster. And I probably should be adjusting these things more often. It's just not something that I'm as keyed into. But that's the way that I would think about it. And it doesn't hurt also to keep in mind, if the entire combat, if the players succeed, they're going to feel like heroes. They're going to feel awesome. You're probably going to feel bad if you didn't intend to wipe them out and you wipe them out. So after kind of figuring everything out, you could go, what happens if my monster has like 2 or 3 like critical hits in a row? Like, what does that look like if I'm just rolling like a god and maximize this damage, like say 2 or 3 times? What's going to happen? And if that number is scary, maybe keep that in mind, because in my experience, most of the time, if I'm like, okay, they did a really good job against those monsters, that's a good fun time for everybody. If I'm like, oh, I am crushing them in this fight that like maybe wasn't supposed to be this crushing, that's not gonna probably be as much fun. But that's all to taste. I mean, take it with a grain of salt. Everybody kind of runs a different table and a different dynamic. In a crunch, if you need to introduce that threat, you can always make something a high to hit, almost guaranteeing you a hit. You can always make something like this, and if you need a heavy hitter in your fight, you could have something in here that's like an experimental, like let's say this toss, this does 2d12 + 5. Let's say it was 5d12. Let's say it's a massive, like you're throwing a giant boulder. Well, I could just mark this attack, which is a really heavy hitter. I could just mark it as a once per fight or like a once per day thing. Like I could just keep track of that and say, okay, that's the monster used it. It scared the pants off of everybody, but also now I'm not going to do that again. Like that did its job in establishing this monster as a threat. now I can kind of ease up and use some of its other more standard attacks. So it's tricky stuff to think about. I'm a big fan of trying to keep stuff as fluid as possible until it's actually real in the game, just because, like I said, we learn so much more once combat starts versus what we were guessing combat was going to be beforehand.